It was in 2008 I received an invitation to make a presentation at a World Council of Churches conference at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Those were the days I was reading Paulo Coelho's novels, where he explains the beauty of this city, Rio, especially its laid back beach culture, of course, the Copacabana beach, the carnivals, samba, and not to forget the favelas, which were the slums in the outskirts of the city. So, as I received that conference invitation, I was excited to travel to that part of the world to experience all that I have been reading about. One another exciting thing I really looked forward was to see the famous Cristo Redentor, Christ the Redeemer statue. After landing at Rio, I was taken to the conference center, which was a Catholic guest house, and it was on the top of a mountain from where we had a beautiful view of Christ the Redeemer statue with his hands wide open facing us. It was a great sight to view that statue from our conference center. Every day, I was hoping to get closer to the statue to see its magnificence. And on the last day of my conference, with the sun shining brightly, I made arrangements to go and view this Christ the Redeemer statue. The statue was located at the peak of 2,300 feet on Corcovado Mountain in the Tijuca Forest National Park, overlooking the city of Rio. I was all excited to see this magnificent statue of 98 feet placed on a pedestal of 26 feet. And to reach that mountain top, I had to take a cog train, and it was a splendid 20 minutes ride through the forest. My excitement grew stronger and stronger as I got on to the train to see this world famous Christ the Redeemer statue. But in that 20 minutes, the weather suddenly changed. It got cold with clouds gathering thick and dark. So, as I reached the mountain top to see Christ the Redeemer statue, these thick and dark clouds covered the entire mountain, and it was a total disappointment to all the visitors that day because none of us could see clearly the statue, for the visibility was very poor. I stayed till the evening near that statue on that mountain top, hoping against hope that the clouds would disappear and I can have a glance of the statue. It was one of those disappointing moments for me, for I had to return from that mountain top of Corcovado Mountain without viewing the statue clearly due to the thick clouds. I traveled back home from Rio only with the memories of viewing Christ the Redeemer from a distance, from the mountain top of my conference center, and with the disappointment of not able to view it clearly from its footsteps. The text for this Sunday, the Sunday before Lent, is from Mark chapter 9, verse 2 to 9, is a passage where Jesus takes Peter, John, and James to a mountain top and transfigures before them. Jesus meets Elijah with Moses and speaks to them there. And on seeing these things happening, Peter said to Jesus, Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make three dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. For Peter did not know what to say because they were terrified. And later a voice came out from the heavens saying about Jesus, This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him, in verse 7. The three disciples saw only Jesus at the end, and they had to come down the mountain to get back to their ministry and mission engagements. All that what has happened with Jesus' transfiguration and the voice appearing from heaven, I would want to call that an experience of wonder to which the three disciples had the opportunity to capture it. And so, having had the opportunity to see for himself that wonder of transfiguration, Peter was disappointed that on the one hand he could not build the dwellings for Moses, Elijah, and Jesus on that mountaintop. On the other hand, because the cloud had overshadowed them, and at the end he had to return without memorializing that rare encounter of Jesus with the two significant faith pioneers from three historical time periods meeting at that Transfiguration mountain. Peter, James, and John were the only witnesses to this Jesus' transfiguration on that mountain, and I want to reflect on their reactions, particularly Peter's reactions to this experience, which led to his disappointments. What they see is not what they get. In those moments of wonder, Peter responds and blurts. Firstly, Peter wanted to capture the wonder of transfiguration religiously. Mark records that 6 days later, Jesus took Peter, James, and John to this mountaintop experience in verse 2. In a way, this is to say that it was on the seventh day that this transfiguration experience happened. Perhaps it could be the day of Sabbath. And on that day of Sabbath, it was their tradition to spend that day with several rituals and religious observances. So, imagining when Mark records after 6 days, and if it would have been a day of Sabbath, and the transfiguration of Jesus happened on that mountain, he saw Elijah coming with Moses speaking to Jesus, and Peter wanted to capture that experience religiously by building three tabernacles for these three people to make it a truly Sabbath experience. Peter tried to memorialize the wonder of transfiguration religiously, thinking by building three tabernacles that would impress Jesus, Moses, and Elijah and the rest of his companions. Secondly, Peter wanted to capture the wonder of transfiguration rigorously. Mark records in verse 7 that Peter did not know what to say, for they were terrified. As he was caught in that wonder of transfiguration and the aftermaths of it, Peter and his companions were terrified, not knowing what to say. In not knowing what to say, Peter said he wanted to build three tabernacles for Jesus, Moses, and Elijah. He wanted to capture those moments scrupulously with constructions, with buildings, with structures, with memorials, with something that will have a permanent memory of that event. Peter wanted to put in hard work in setting up those three dwellings, in a way, repeating what their ancestors did in erecting memorials whenever they have had an encounter of such wonder experiences. Peter tried to memorialize the wonder of transfiguration rigorously, thinking that would again impress Jesus, Elijah, Moses, and the rest of his companions. Thirdly, Peter wanted to capture the wonder of transfiguration rigidly. On experiencing that wonder of transfiguration, Peter said to Jesus, Rabbi, it is good for us to be here in verse 5. Peter wanted to remain there on that mountaintop experience rigidly, for he knew it was a rare experience. It was once in a lifetime experience, and it was an experience beyond any human comprehension to understand what has happened on that mountaintop. He did not want to give away that experience to pass by without any mark of it, rather wanted to build three dwellings, three tabernacles there, and make it a religious site, perhaps a pilgrim site, and a site to inform the world that Peter and his two companions were the witnesses to this wonder experience of transfiguration on that mountain. That mountaintop experience was far from all the struggles of life, from all the evils of the empire, and was far from all the problems and conflicts. So Peter wanted firmly and rigidly to stay on that mountaintop experience, enjoying the encounter of Jesus with Elijah and Moses. At the end, the proposal of Peter in setting up three tabernacles or three dwellings For Jesus, Elijah, and Moses did not happen and did not come true, and he was left disappointed. Jesus did not approve of such constructions or of structures and memorials. For if that was the case, Jesus should have encouraged Peter and his companions in doing it before that wonder passed away. I think Jesus did not want the wonder of his life to be captured and built as memorial sites or as pilgrim sites or as tents or as temples in his name, rather wanted his life and his experience to be lived out by his disciples and followers by being with people in their struggles, with their struggles, offering hope and healing. I also see the disapproval of Peter's proposal of building three tabernacles from the voice that came out from the heaven at that moment. The cloud overshadowed them, and the voice said, "This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him," in verse 7. The voice from heavens was reminding Peter and his companions to recognize that Jesus is the beloved Son of God. And the voice came with a call to ask the disciples to listen to Jesus. Perhaps in a nutshell, the message of Transfiguration is to celebrate the wonder of Jesus by recognizing that Jesus is the Son of God, to listen to Jesus throughout, and to reflect Jesus in all walks of life. For Peter, he has to get down that Transfiguration mountaintop experience in disappointment as his proposal of building three tabernacles was disapproved. In drawing a relevance of this text for our context today, where on the one hand, we here in UK observe the second Sunday in February as Racial Justice Sunday, and on the other hand, people celebrating love on this Sunday, I want to infer three signposts for our discipleship today. Firstly, we are called to listen to the wonder of the gospel in love. Most often in our Christian life and in our life, in the life of a church, we try to apply rules and rituals and regulations based on religiosity and give love a backbench. There are many who want to be literalists, trying to stick to the book, repeat the same things again and again with little respect to the changing context. The learning from this text of Transfiguration is that we are called to capture and share the wonder of the good news of Christ in love, for love is at the heart of Christ's voice, and is also in reimagining that we are called to share the love relevant for our times and situations. Even though we do not know what to speak and how to speak, all it takes in Christian discipleship is love alone, love without any boundaries. And to recognize Jesus as the Son of God and to listen to Christ's voice today is all about love for the other, particularly to people who do not look like us. And when love thrives, equality is shared, and supremacy of color, race, ethnicity, caste, and power will be driven away, and justice is ensured. Secondly, we are called to listen to the wonder of the gospel in graciousness. It is not in building memorials, pilgrim sites, temples, or shrines for Jesus, but in being gracious to one another, in receiving and accepting one another, and in being with one another, by creating a sense of belongingness to people who are different to us, and by being open in listening to each other's perspectives, we celebrate the love of Christ today. There are varied expressions of God's wonder today. Let us be gracious to one another in listening and accepting one another. Lack of graciousness for the other is one of the reasons for racial injustices today. And practicing justice and equality in graciousness is the need of the day so that we can achieve racial justice. From this transfiguration mountain, Jesus now sets off his face towards Jerusalem and moves on in his life, healing and transforming people and communities in grace and with grace. Thirdly, we are called to listen to the wonder of gospel in humility. It is easy to stay on the mountaintop experiences, but Jesus wants us to get down the mountain to be with the people in their needs. This call for gracious humility today. People take pride in their ethnicity, in their color, in their race, in their religiosity, in their gender, in their history, in their tradition, in their caste, in their class. And in that pride, they develop arrogance and try to humiliate the others who come from different backgrounds and from other different places. Jesus did not deem it a privilege speaking to Elijah and Moses and kept on staying with them or did not want to remain over there, rather came down to journey towards the other mountain of Calvary and also brought the disciples down from the mountain to preach and practice God's love and justice to all people. If we don't listen to the wonder of gospel in love, in graciousness, and in humility, we might be disappointed. For Christian life is all about these values of love, grace, and humility. We, as the followers of Jesus Christ, are called to be champions for racial justice in our localities by creating a preferential options of affirmative actions for people of different ethnicities and color. And we, as churches, should be in the forefront towards such a racial justice mission engagements for our times today. So may God grant God's strength so that we are not disappointed because of our religiosity, because of our rigor, because of our rigidity. Rather, listen to the voice of Christ in the gospel and demonstrate love in action to all people and to all of the creation. After I returned from Rio, Brazil, from that conference, I realized that Christian discipleship is in translating the vision of Christ the Redeemer in the context where I serve and keep demonstrating the love of Christ and not worry about missing to view the world's greatest statue in clear visibility. May God bless us all through the hearing of this word so that we can capture the wonder of the gospel in love, in truth, in graciousness, and in humility. Amen.